Miami Heat return to action tomorrow evening against the Toronto Raptors after the All-Star break, but we have to talk about two main things. One of them, the fact that Erik Spoelstra made a promise to turn this season around, and then Tyler Herro calls out his own team, own organization during All-Star weekend. We'll discuss what both had to say, starting with Erik Spoelstra, because the season did not go so well for Miami in the final 8 games before the All-Star break, especially the final 4. And Spoelstra caught a lot of heat for that. And he says that I'll get to work. The staff will get to work. We'll do what we need to do. I promise we're going to correct this. And boy, does he. And although I don't think any Heat fans truly believe that this team is a title contender, and nor should they, but it should be a better product than what is going on the floor. I know some fans, including myself, may have said the T word in terms of tanking the rest of the season. But the truth is, in order to have confidence about this organization and roster moving forward, you need to see Bam, Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, and Nikola Jovic, really just those 4, help this team win basketball games, because those 4 have been anointed as the core group of guys that the Heat are likely going to try to build with and around over the next 3 or 4 seasons. So you need to see them start to win, and Erik Spoelstra needs to figure out how to use them in their best ability. And before we talk more about this team, make sure you are following me over on Twitter/X. I put out more Heat content over there on the daily, also live tweet games, highlights. We'll have it all. We're really close to 1,500 followers. Would appreciate it. First 5 people to follow me from today's video, Nic_Rohloff, is getting to follow back. I mentioned how poorly those final 8 games went before the All-Star break, and it was even uglier to reflect. They went 2-6 in the final 8 games. They lost their final 4, with 3 of them being atrocious. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets after blowing a double-digit fourth-quarter lead. They lost by 16. They got outscored, I think it was 31-8 in that fourth quarter. They didn't even look like they were in the same weight class as the Boston Celtics. That game was never close. They blew a double-digit lead against the Thunder, getting outscored, 34-8 in that fourth quarter. They scored under 10 points on the road in the fourth quarter in back-to-back games. And then on the game before the All-Star break Thursday against the Mavs, they lost to Spencer Dinwiddie, Max Christie, Walker Kessler. It was just an abysmal cast of characters the Mavs were putting out there. They should have realistically closed out the final 4 games 3-1, and they went 0-4. If they went 3-1, we'd have a different conversation about this Heat team right now. But they are 9th in the Eastern Conference standings as we get back to basketball in the post-All-Star break schedule. And the fact that with how poorly the Hawks have been, the Magic have been bad, the Pistons are ahead of you. Like, you are just destined to be a play-in team once again. But realistically, if I just showed you these 10 records before the season and said which one would be the Miami Heat's, I think most people would think it's either the 4, the 5, or the 6 seed. And the fact that it's the 9 seed is a joke. And despite my frustrations in wanting to tank to preserve the future, get better draft picks and a good draft class, have potentially 2 first-rounders, the Heat need to start playing good basketball. They do. And maybe I was just out of frustration saying that the Heat need to tank, because I don't want them to truly look as abysmal as they have been over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, you need to start inspiring confidence in the fan base, but as well as the locker room. This group of guys, Herro, Bam, I'll even include Wiggins in here because he'll be here next season in all likelihood. Ware, Jovic, Jaquez, these guys need to start believing that they have enough, that they are capable of winning games in the NBA. They have not been able to do that ever since Jimmy Butler situation has really started and he's left the organization. This group needs to start winning games, and Erik Spoelstra, I'm putting on you as a top coach in the NBA to figure out the rotations, figure out the best way to utilize these guys to get winning basketball back in Miami. But predict it for me. What will the Heat ultimately do when it's all said and done at the end of the season? If you think they're a lottery team, type the L's. If you think they're going to be in the play-in again, type the PIs. If you think they somehow avoid the play-in and are a top 6 seed, type those P's. Well, it's hard to feel good about the P's. It's likely going to be a play-in or a lottery because the Heat just simply have not been good in the year 2025. I'll decide to look at the 2 differences here. When you had the first game of the season on October 23rd and the final game of the 2024 campaign in December 31st, the Heat were a good basketball team. They were just above 500. They were top half in offensive rating, a top 10 net team, and a top 10 defensive team. Well, ever since the new year has turned in 2025, it has been quite the different story. 9-14 record. They're bottom 5 in both offensive rating and net rating, and they're a bottom half team in the defensive rating, which is quite the difference for a Heat team that is always in the top half of defensive rating. It's just simply been ugly basketball. The Heat have been unable to score consistently. They've been unable to get stops. Now, you look at those two timelines of 2024 to 2025, and there's one common denominator of, well, when did the Jimmy Butler dramas begin? Well, it started at the end of December around Christmas time when the preferred destinations came out, the preferred trade came out, and then the trade request happened in the beginning of January. So, yeah, maybe that clouds things a little bit, and you take a top 25, 30 player in the NBA off this team, yeah, it's obviously going to get worse, and you've only had his replacement in Wiggins, Davion Mitchell for 2-3 games, but it's just simply been unacceptable to see the difference in comparisons to 2024 Miami and 2025 Miami. And I don't think Erik Spoelstra is playing for his job by any stretch of the imagination. Heat fans that are calling for him to get fired just simply don't understand that the Heat will not do that. And if there is ever a way for Erik Spoelstra to leave this coaching staff and leave the sidelines, it's going to be joining the Heat front office in some capacity. So if you think Erik Spoelstra should be fired, stop saying it, because it's not going to happen. And he's not playing for his job. The ownership group, Pat Riley, they would never get rid of him. They shouldn't get rid of him because I still think he's a good coach and a top coach in the NBA. But in order to keep his status as a top 3, top 5, top 1 head coach in the all of NBA, he needs to start getting more out of this group, because this group is more talented than some of those 2017, 2018 teams between the big 3 and between the Jimmy Butler era. But this team is not performing at the same level of those teams. This group needs to start winning some games here down the stretch. And we are going to talk about Tyler Herro here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app and platform out there. I play Prize Picks on a daily basis because it's so fun and so easy. All you do is pick more or less and at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup, if it isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Speaking of Flex Friday, or Flex Play, take advantage of Flex Friday, where they give you a protected flex pick. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Think Steph Curry will get more than 5 3-pointers, Herro more than 24 points. Cook up your hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. But while we wait for Heat basketball to return on Friday evening, I have my entry for baseball this upcoming season. More than on both Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal pitcher strikeouts, more than on Jarren Duran home runs. Just another example of how you can play daily, season long, combine how you want to play. It's so customizable. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link is in the description and comments of today's video. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's segue over to Tyler Herro, because he did speak out on the Miami Heat, the organization, and where we are in terms of contending, because during All-Star Weekend, 1, shout out to Tyler for winning the 3-point contest, and 2, he got a lot of media, so there was a lot of questions thrown his way, one being on the Heat. And he said, if we're calling a spade, we're not contenders right now. But I think with the team we're trying to put together, we have young guys who can help us win. And I know some fans didn't like hearing that Tyler Herro believes that we're not contenders. I, on the other hand, think it's a breath of fresh air that one of these top guys in the organization is actually aware of the current situation. Yeah, I love Jimmy Butler's unwavering confidence in himself and his teammates to get the job done when it mattered most, and I like that from the coaching staff and the front office as well. But it is a nice change of pace to see a player realize we don't have enough talent to win right now. He knows that. The entire league knows that. And I hope the coaching staff and front office finally will start to notice that this team doesn't have enough to win an NBA title. But they should be playing much better than what they are right now, and they should be at least the 6th seed in a weak year of the Eastern Conference. Now, with all of that being said, Tyler Herro has to be better himself. Yes, he was an all-star. Yes, he had an incredible first half of the season. But the final 10 games before the all-star break, he struggled. And yes, the raw numbers look good in terms of points per game, assists per game, rebounds per game. But the efficiency of Tyler Herro was not good whatsoever. The beginning of the year, he was shooting 47, 48% from the field, 40% from three. It's the reason why he made the all-star game in the all-star team. But now that his efficiency took a dip, the Heat offense took a dip alongside it as well. And then you factor in he was averaging 4 or 5 turnovers a game over the final 4 or 10 games. That's just unacceptable. For the Heat to get back to playing winning basketball, above 500 basketball, this organization to start heading back in the right direction, I hate to say that it all falls on Tyler Herro, but it really does fall on Tyler and Bam to get this ship corrected. You need 14. You need Herro to be playing efficient basketball, not turning the ball over, shooting 45% from the field, 38, 39, 40% from three. I get it. It will be difficult with all the coverages and the attention he's receiving on the offensive end. But with that being said, that should be able to create more open looks for a Jovic, a Duncan, an Andrew Wiggins, a Bam, a Kalal Ware. So to me, this team just needs to stop turning the ball over, getting more open looks, and start cashing in on those open looks. But specifically with Tyler here, I want to play an over-under game. He averaged 23.9 points per game in the pre-All-Star break schedule. Just looking at the final 25-30 games of the season, will Herro average 24 points per game in that stretch? Type O for over, type U for under. Tyler Herro also was asked about Jimmy Butler, and I want to close the show on this, about Wiggins wearing Jimmy's old number, 22. Tyler said that Jimmy is definitely a Heat legend, but I feel with how things transpired over the last couple of months, I think number 22 can be worn again. And I know this quote kind of riled up the fan base a little bit, and I wanted to share my opinion on it. And I think it's pretty safe to draw this conclusion. If we're going to be honest, it will not be said publicly, I think, between Tyler Herro and Jimmy Butler, but I don't think Tyler Herro felt very good about the way Jimmy's tenure ended with Miami. I don't think that locker room felt the same way either. I think Tyler is aligned with this locker room. I just don't think anybody else has the kind of legs to stand on it and say it to the public. Like if Duncan Robinson or if Terry Rozier came out and said that quote, like it wouldn't really resonate. But I think Herro and Bam, being leaders, kind of feel this type of way. Because Jimmy Butler will say that his beef and issue and quarrel with the Heat was not with the players, and it's really just with how his relationship ended with Erik Spoelstra and Pat Riley. But he loves the organization, he loves the locker room and the players in it. But I don't think it's reciprocated, because I think some of those Heat players believe Jimmy Butler quit on them. And they did. Like, he did quit on him. He did. He requested a trade. He did conduct detrimental to the team and to get himself suspended. And I understand why he did that. I understand why the Heat did what they did. I understand both sides of it. But when you're the locker room, stuck in the middle trying to win games, you can feel some type of way on how you were disrespected by your teammate and what you thought was your brother and Jimmy Butler, where he left you out to dry. So I think most of this locker room has some ill feelings. Not crazy. They still probably like Jimmy the person. But on a basketball sense, yeah, they probably are frustrated with Jimmy a little bit. But make sure you are subscribed because, as I mentioned, Heat basketball does return tomorrow evening against the Toronto Raptors. And we will be live tomorrow. We'll be live on Sunday for the game against the Bucks and pretty much almost every game the rest of the year. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you stay tuned for a wild end of the season for the Miami Heat.